This is the Board of Education meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Act was provided by written notice on January 19, 2016 to the Courier News, Echo Sentinel, the Star Ledger, Tap into Warren, and the clerks of the Borough of Watchung in the townships of Greenbrook, Long Hill, and Warren. Roll call, please.
Mr. Collins? Mr. Mizia?
Yeah.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Falzarano? Yes, so good. Mr. Schreckner?
Yeah.
Mr. Hunsinger? Mr. Martins? Here. Mr. Massabatista? Mr. Morrison?
Here.
And Dr. Shapilsky. And I got Mr. Collins.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, be it hereby resolved that the Board move into executive session to discuss confidential personnel matters after which action may be taken. It is expected that the matters discussed in executive session will be made public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Motion to move.
So moved.
All right, and we're back. Next on the agenda will be the superintendent's comments.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I would like to welcome the members of our leadership team that are here tonight that will be giving a presentation shortly. I'm going to save my comments for the presentation. I would like to welcome the parents and students we have here tonight as well. It is always nice to see faces of our learning community in the audience, so thank you for coming.
I have no comments since we have a packed agenda with presentations, so I'll move on to the business administrator.
Likewise, Mr. President, I do not have any comments.
Excellent. Our student representatives report.
We are pleased to report that Karthik Iricom, Natalie Kim, Daniel Lee, Jonathan Rich, Caroline Rucker, Michelle Shui, Gavin Van Skyver, Nicole Wang, Jenny Yin, and Joy Zhu are semifinalists in the 2017 National Merit Scholarship Competition. There are 36 commended students in the 2017 National Merit Program in addition to the new semifinalists, for a total of 46 recognized students. This past summer, marching band students Andrew Morrison and Craig Mandelbaum participated for the first time with the drum corps. Andrew served as a drum major with Cadets 2 and Craig with Fusion as a percussionist in their pit. Because of their hard work, they were able to participate in the DCA Drum Corps Associates World Championship on September 4th in Rochester, New York. This is the first time both students participated in drum corps. Marching band placed third in the U.S. Bands competition in Somerville on October 1st. The following Saturday, October 8th, they placed fourth at the competition held in Hillsborough, where they also received the Drum Major Award. The drum majors for band are senior Andrew Morrison and juniors Carl Peterson and Emma Barzilek. The band will be participating in the Yamaha Cup competition, which will be held at the MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford on October 15th, which congratulations to Ruchi Biswas for placing first in the high school division of the 2016 Mahatma Gandhi Art and Writing Contest. She received the award at Princeton University on October 9th.
The girls' soccer is currently ranked in the top 10 in the state of New Jersey and earned the #1 seed in the Somerset County tournament. They will be playing the county semifinals this coming Saturday. Brenda Peng, a member of our girls' tennis team, has advanced to the state tournament quarterfinals. Boys' soccer advanced to the quarterfinal round of the Somerset County tournament. Our homecoming football game will take place on October 21st versus Linden at 7 p.m. Field hockey won their first round of the Somerset County tournament game at home. Our gymnastics team is 5-0. Alexis Teakin took first place with the new Somerset County record on uneven bars, as well as first on the balance beam, 6th on floor, and first all-around. Megan Durant took third all-around, and Jenna Romuno took second on floor exhibition. The girls' cross-country team showed exemplary sportsmanship by stopping to help an opponent who encountered a medical emergency during a meet. Our boys' cross-country team placed 6th at the county championship meet, and Ryan voted Week 1 Team Athlete of the Week of NJ Miles.
And I'd like to add one thing to that. The varsity girls ultimate frisbee team recently took first in a college level tournament, so they're still like #1 as they usually are.
That's fantastic. Was that the tournament just this past weekend?
No, it was the one before that.
Okay, oh, great, thank you for sharing that.
Excellent. Next, we have the State of the District presentation. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Jewett.
Thank you.
Are you the Dr. Ultimate Frisbee?
Welcome everyone to, I'll call it our first annual State of the District presentation. This time every year, we generally give our student performance data update, which is something that we're required to give by the state of New Jersey, and report on how our students have performed on various assessments, both internal and standardized state and federal national assessments. So this year we've changed it up a little bit to make it more comprehensive and really talk about everything that the teachers and the students have been doing to really make the vision, which Mr. Alexis will expand upon in a little bit, a reality. So the board has shown unwavering commitment towards supporting the district and becoming even better tomorrow than we are today. And we have a number of members of our district leadership team, all of our supervisors and directors and our principal here this evening to talk about exactly what that looks like and to try and paint a picture of what that looks like among our various departments and the work they've been doing with our staff and students. And they're going to be doing that through reflecting on not only our accomplishments and celebrating our achievements, but also in reflecting what we've identified as areas for continued growth and continued attention and focus. And all of that utilizes our strategic plan and our three overarching goals as a framework for growth. And each of them, part of their presentation, will also be talking about what their department develops as departmental goals based off of the strategic plan goals. And I know it's probably getting redundant at this point, but that's a good thing if you already know these before I even discuss them. But our three overarching strategic plan goals that came out of the work of our planning team and a lot of feedback from various stakeholders center upon social and emotional wellness of our students and our staff, building and expanding upon our support structures to help our students plan for whatever it is they are going to do when they leave us, as well as integrating creative, innovative, and interdisciplinary learning throughout our district and with our sending districts. So they're going to talk about how what is going on in their departments specifically relates to all of these. So I am now going to turn it over to Mr. George Alexis, our principal. There we go.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jewett. Yes, we start with the vision. This is a vision statement that we developed and articulated for the school 4 years ago, and it's one that we've been moving towards ever since. You'll hear more about examples from the supervisors about the way the practices are becoming increasingly aligned, the instructional practices, but it's also important to note how well aligned the strategic plan, the goals, and the action teams are all well aligned with the vision. At the heart of our vision statement, and I know you've heard this before, a lot of folks have heard this before, but at the heart of it is a culture of inquiry. And what I mean by that is it's a culture where we are encouraging students to ask questions, to take risks, to think critically, to collaborate with others, to really go beyond just being passive students in a classroom and to use their engagement to think with creativity, to think critically, and to really deepen their understanding of the academic skills that they're developing in the classroom. But we also broaden that so it's not, and just as you see from the strategic plan, we have 3 goals. One of them is more academic. The others are about social and emotional intelligences, social and emotional well-being, and we're committed to that. So whether it's in the classroom, whether it's in pursuit of aesthetic or athletic or service interests or another co-curricular pursuit, we look at those as instructional experiences because we look at them as opportunities for us to coach and mentor students and to help them grow and have positive experiences throughout their high school experiences here. So we also emphasize reflection, we also emphasize integrity, empathy, kindness, and we are preparing for the students to be in a good position to move on into the adult world. I mention it here also not just to tie in the strategic plan, but also as a foundation and as a springboard for our conversation tonight about some of our achievements, but also about some of the practices that you'll hear about from the supervisors. So we're going to start with the student performance data. And probably the most notable one, the one that everyone recognizes, is the SAT analysis. We have a 5-year overview of the performance of students, and when you look at the far left in 2012, when we had an aggregate score of 1660, and then look to the far right and see that we are now at 1718 for the class of 2016, that's 58 points. But when you also look at the bottom of the screen of the bar graph and you see the orange lines and how that line is going in a downward trajectory, you notice that nationally the scores for SATs have gone down 19 points. So it creates a net effect of 77 points in terms of a difference over the 5 years. The next slide has a breakdown of our scores for the class of 2016. Now, the way the College Board reports this, it's the last score that a student earns on the SAT, whether that's junior year, senior year, it's just the last time a student takes the test. Those scores are added and averaged, and you can see we're at 563 for critical reading, 586 for math, and 569 for writing. Now, the history of it is when you go back to 2012 and look at the 1660 number, we were in the 540s in reading and the 540s in writing, and about 569, I believe, in math. So you see an upward trajectory there, over 40 points in the English language arts discipline. And last year, our math scores rose 10 points, which is also another encouraging sign. Okay, and another, we just heard about our National Merit semifinalists. And when you look back at the last 3 years, we've had very positive experiences with this. The National Merit Program is based on a student's 11th grade SAT score. When you go back 5 or 6 years, we had recognized students in the numbers of anywhere between the high teens to the high 20s. 3 years ago, we had 55 recognized students, the year after 54, and then this past year with the new PSAT, which is based on 2 scores instead of the 3-part SAT that used to be in place and has now changed, we had 46 recognized students. The other nice point to note here is that we have 10 semifinalists, and that's one point of comparison that we can make because we do get data nationally, state by state. New Jersey, Massachusetts, and the District of Columbia have the highest cutoff for semifinalists and commended students. And we had 10 semifinalists. When you look at the non-magnet public schools in the state of New Jersey, we're number 10 in terms of the number of semifinalists, which is really a nice achievement. And we're very close to those schools that have are 7, 8, and 9. So again, and on the right-hand side, we put some notes, and again, I'll return to the vision. And the idea that we've had a school-wide initiative to provide students with more critical reasoning and problem-solving opportunities. We have been administering the PSAT during the school day for the last several years. Last year we offered it to the 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, but based on the experience of the 9th graders, we decided to stay with the 10th and 11th graders this year. They'll be taking that tomorrow morning at 7:30. And we've also done some things where we've provided, in small ways, practice questions from the PSAT and SAT as due nows to start class, or integrate them in other ways to familiarize the students with the tests and the challenges of that. But the credit is owed to the faculty and the folks who are leading the departments to help align the practices for our students with our vision, and it's paying dividends. We're going to continue with some more of the standardized test data, and I'm going to invite Mr. DeLessio to come up and talk about the ACT and the PARCC test.
Before you go, oops. Okay. So we also have the ACT data to show you for a 5-year analysis. So similar to what Mr. Alexis just showed you for the SAT, the 5-year analysis is good. We can see that line, the top line there, that's our score is starting to kind of slope up a little bit. And last year we set a goal similar to the goal that was set on the SAT of the 1700 in 2012 or 2013. We set a goal of 27 as a composite score for our students here. If you look on the bottom line, that's kind of dipping down a little bit, and we're starting to go up. So again, we're very proud of how the students are doing on this test. Also, it's a little different than the SAT, but I think our students will come through and help help us achieve that goal with the help of the teachers. Our park scores came in this year again. This was the second year of park. Just as a side note, you remember that the park test did get changed a bit from its initial year in 2015 to 2016. There was 2 sittings in 2015, both a March sitting and a May sitting, to give a combined score. Last year, or for the 2016 year, there's only 1 sitting. That's something was changed with the test, and therefore that has a net effect sometimes on scores. Not exactly sure, but these are our park scores from mathematics. We did have a little bit of a drop in the number of students taking the test last year, but the differences in the scores of 728 to 726, we're not sure how significant that is in terms of whether it's significant or not. That's something that gets fleshed out over more and more years as the data comes across, but our kids had a good showing there. And these are our ELA scores, very similar. Again, the bar graphs don't give justice to how big, what those score differences really mean each year. But again, we had a small dip in the number of students taking the test last year, which could have a net effect also. So there's a lot of background noise that we're not sure about. Needless to say, our students performed well on the ACT and PARCC. We're very proud of how they're doing and achieving scores and targets that we want them to get to. So they'll get there for us with the aid of our teachers and us. Ms. Phelan and Mr. Twizzle will come up. They're going to talk a little bit about advanced placement and how our students did on the advanced placement tests.
Okay, so our first bit of data here is taking a look at the number of tests that scored in each of the categories. The yellow graph bars show the 2012 numbers, and notice that in 2012 we did quite well where it was skewing over to the right. But if you look at the darker orange bars, they're showing the 2016 numbers, where we show a heavy, significant portion of our students over in the 5 category. And that leaning over to the 5 is a reflection of us trying harder to get the students to get the 3 or above, and the students really delivered. Almost a third of our students got 5s on the AP exam, while maintaining higher number of exams given. In 2012, we had 939 exams, whereas in 2016, we had 988 exams given. The percent of students getting a 3 and up on the exam has also been rising. Back in 2012, it was 84.9% of students got a 3 or higher. In 2016, 93.8% of students got a 3 or higher on the exam. It's a significant chunk of the students that were participating in the test scored a 3 or higher. Comparing that to the nation, we've been seeing our numbers rise, whereas the national numbers and the state numbers have remained rather stagnant. If you look at the New Jersey bars, those orange ones, they're actually on the decline, whereas we've been rising. Nationally, it's been holding steady at around that 60%, whereas now, again, we're up at 93. That's a significant increase over those numbers.
Good evening. The other important point now is to not just focus, as Mr. Alexis said, on assessment, but to look at assessment more broadly, that it is an indication of how great our students are, as well as how our faculty and our supervisors are working collaboratively. So we're particularly proud of the number of exams that we're administering, as well as the scores, as you can see, in 2016. 3 years ago, the superintendent suggested strongly suggested, depending on whether you like the adverb first or second, that we could probably work a little harder and give our kids a few more authentic experiences, and that our school-wide mean score could be a 4. And we're very proud of the faculty and our students who embrace that goal. So this year we did achieve a 4.04. And This slide is also a credit to our students. Particularly what we want to point out is the Scholar with Distinction and the National Scholar. As the board probably remembers from last year, students can only achieve one, but we have a significant number of students, 21, who've taken more than 8 AP exams and have scored 4 or higher, and a significant number of students who have also become Scholar with Distinction, which means they've achieved a 3.5 on 5 exams. So that's a very impressive statistic for our school and for our community. Okay, we would like to introduce Kathy Angelastro, but unfortunately she has a personal family emergency. So Dan and I are going to just do a brief overview of the post-secondary data.
This is a report showing where our students are at upon leaving high school. The blue bar shows the aggregate of both the 4-year and the 2-year college. Over this 4-year span, we can now see that a significant number of our students are attending post-secondary school at the conclusion of high school. Apologize for the quality of this chart. It's a little bit hard to read, but this is actually coming out of our, which report is this coming from? Naviance.
Right, graduate, which the board had asked for last year, that we would like to track more of our graduates so that we can reach out to our alums and find where we do really well and where we could improve. So believing in growing capacity, we pay a lot of attention to graduates who come back and they love our faculty and they want to visit, but they also tell us things like research papers. Ms. Fallon, we always get an A if it's 5 pages or less. But sometimes if it's a 6-page to a 20-page paper, we could use a little bit more work. So the English and Social Studies supervisors and departments are working very collaboratively to address that. So that would be one example. So we want to get better with paying attention to where our graduates go and what kinds of success they have.
And the beauty of this particular chart is that we can see for the first time over a 4-year span whether the students are sticking with their college choice. So that green bar on the left are the number of students who are actively enrolled, and then we watch as that morphs, that orange is them currently enrolled, so they're not just entering. The yellow, that slate bar, are students that are no longer in college. In the next bar, we see the blue are returning students, whereas that yellow is still students that ended their program, and we see that that orange bar is still significantly high. But that on the bottom, that magenta, or maroon, what have you, is actually students who completed their program. So we can see in the 3rd and 4th year, a significant number of students have completed their goal of getting a degree.
I'm trying.
And this slide is a response also to discussion we had with the board last year about increasing the number of highly competitive schools that our graduates go to. So we're particularly pleased with this list. We don't see it as, excuse me, as a prize to be won. We look at it more as, you know, we're promoting potential in our students. University of Virginia to have 3 students from one high school is particularly significant, as well as you recognize, UPenn, Michigan, MIT. So we said that we wanted to increase opportunities, and we think that we are spending time reaching out to deans of admission, inviting them to view your transcripts, getting feedback on how exactly electives are calculated into a GPA when a highly performing school is making a decision about Thank you.
Very good list.
My mistake. I wanted to also introduce Beth Scheidemann, and last week she was solely responsible for collaborating with the 4 Southern districts, and I personally saw 21 of our faculty members who said it was the best PD that they've ever experienced. So Beth Scheidemann.
Pressure.
And she's introducing me that way because she knows very well that we collaborated very closely for the past 2 years on professional learning, and I appreciate it very much. And really, for professional learning, you've had updates from me for the past 2 years, as I get to see you often. So my big highlights here are collaboration and improving the program through the feedback that we receive from the teachers who are participating in the professional learning. Professional learning begins each summer with a county legal training for the administrators. So again, we're using collaboration with the county office. We move right into new teacher orientation. This year we had 15 attendees. Last year 15 attendees also. New teacher orientation is a bit of a misnomer. It's really new educator orientation. We have the media center specialists, school nurses, child study team members, in addition to teachers, instructional aides. So it's a very nice, dynamic, again, collaborative atmosphere that we were able to fine-tune and improve this year based upon the feedback from the people who participated last year, as well as our mentoring committee, Claude Chappelle and Nancy Capel. There is not an administrator here tonight who has not helped with the new teacher orientation or any of the professional learning activities. They all jump right in there. They have all done presentations in every activity that we've had. Last year we had our PD days in September, October, and February. We were very much focused on technology with Google and rolling out Gmail and all of the Google apps. This year we were able to have the 2 PD days in September and then in October for a very nice institute feel. Again, the teachers are sitting behind me, as well as our teachers from Watchung Hills who jumped in there and provided classes, and one of those days was a shared service with our sending districts. So the evaluation feedback this year has just been absolutely wonderful from the teachers. We plan to continue to move in this direction, and I think that's it.
Last year, English teachers worked with teachers from the Social Studies Department to coordinate the teaching of research and documented writing. It's important work, and they established a schedule which outlined that every student was required to write a research paper. The English teachers had students writing research papers during the first semester and in social studies during the second semester. And they focused in on some critical skills and in the sharing of best practices. English teachers also contributed to a review of summer reading and worked to streamline the process for this year. And we've accomplished that. Substantive work with summer reading takes place now prior to Columbus Day that had extended into October in the past. And this year, we completed that work and provided feedback for students on their writing about their summer reading prior to the end of September. It's important that they have that feedback from us quickly. It's a central piece of writing from them here early in the school year. Now, that doesn't mean, however, that our work with the summer texts ends with this assessment. These texts become touchstones that we refer to throughout the year in the heavy synthesis work that takes place at all levels. So we'll continue to visit those books throughout the courses. Student performance on the AP Language and Composition exam is strong. We're very pleased to see that overall mean score of 4.35. That is, in fact, the highest AP Language and Composition mean score over the last 5 years. But we see strong performance elsewhere in the exam also. 81% of students were in the highest quartile of the argument essay. High numbers of students were also in the highest quartile with analysis writing, and the multiple choice sections focused on 20th century prose We've identified an area that we can improve in looking at pre-20th century prose. We find that students don't have enough experience reading the syntax and the diction of prose written prior to the 20th century, and we want to work on that. Student performance on the AP Literature and Composition exam is strong and improving. We're up from 3.11 in 2012 to 3.86 in 2016. We see strong performance in other areas of this exam as well. We're pleased to see students doing well with the prose multiple choice questions. Again, 20th and 21st century literature multiple choice questions, performance is strong. Prose text analysis, the open-ended essay. We see again in this exam, however, that students need some more experience with pre-20th century literature. So our department goals grow from this. The successes that we see, we attribute to work over the last couple of years in sound curriculum development, in the use of understanding by design to really tie instruction to assessment very tightly, and also the work of engaging teachers of 9th and 10th grade students in English to engage in the work of preparing students for AP level performance. Those are the things to which we attribute successes in these areas. Two main goals for the English department. We want to increase opportunities for cross-curricular learning. In history, that is, as you might expect, we're going to continue to work with documented writing and the teaching of research skills, but also in talking about content, looking at political contexts and social and historical contexts for the work we teach. In science, we'll meet with history in our next department meeting, English teachers and history teachers. We'll do the same with science, and I would expect that some of the connections there would be different kinds of connections. Students reading works like the Odyssey or All Quiet on the Western Front, or The Things They Carried, might engage in study of a growing body of biological research about what was once called shell shock, what is today referred to as PTSD. There are many creative opportunities that I'm excited in talking with teachers about their interest in speaking with science teachers and how to enhance collaboration, but that enhances the richness of the intellectual work in the classroom. The second goal is to continue to develop resources that will support students in preparing for their studies and their professional work beyond high school. And that focuses on rhetorical analysis, a critical skill, by the way, that they'll need to develop for the SAT, continued work with the synthesis tasks that we've been working on now for some time. And the reading, as I've noted, the reading and analysis of pre-20th century prose and fictional narratives. That's something teachers have already started to work to generate titles and to enhance the curriculum with those works. Ms. Falbo will talk with you next about social studies.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm so proud to be a member and the leader of the Social Studies Department. We've done a lot of great things these past couple of years, but just focusing on last year, some of the people that we've already heard from have spoken a little bit about this. One of the things that we've initiated the last couple of years and have really emphasized and are continuing to emphasize this year are historical thinking skills. There are 9 historical thinking skills that are really teaching students critical thinking, cause and effect, synthesis, which is something very difficult, which is really sort of like our transfer goals when we write our curriculum maps, getting students to really look at how can they use the skills that they're learning in a real-world situation, inquiry, and things that you've heard about before. So that's really become one of our initiatives that we're continuing throughout. We worked a lot on last year. Teachers presented at the department meeting, and we shared ideas about how we use that in our classrooms. As Mr. Quavia said, we're doing a lot with writing. We write document-based questions, which is getting students to look at primary sources and secondary sources, and then being able to, again, synthesize and use that in a formal writing. And we are working on thesis papers where students are writing each year. It's an excellent thing, and actually we presented this at a social studies conference, and many schools were so impressed that our students every year from 9th through 12th grade write 2 papers a year, not just 1. And so that's something that we can sort of have under our belt. We do a lot with diversity, which is great for the strategic plan, with the wellness and the social emotional intelligence. We've been working with Kane University with their diversity council. And just this week, we are doing our mock election. Most of the classes voted yesterday and today. The last I heard, it was 1 point away between the 2 candidates. So we'll see what the result is come the next couple of days. We've actually worked with a school up in Massachusetts. We've been working since the late 90s with them, and every year except 1 election they've predicted. We are one of 2 schools in New Jersey that represents the nation, and we've always voted the way New Jersey voted. So we'll see what happens in a couple of days when we get the final results with that. So really proud of a lot of our AP scores. The one I really want to highlight, you can see all the scores on there. I don't necessarily have to read them to you, but the one I really want to highlight is our government and politics, which made a tremendous increase from last year to, from 15 to 16. So we're very proud of that. A lot of it is due to restructuring that we've done in the department, but also one of the things that we've worked on, and you've heard the word collaboration a lot, that's one of the things that we've done in the last year or so with our department, where we now have, especially in our elective courses, we've always had it in our core courses, but we have more than 1 teacher teaching a subject, and the teachers have said this is great for them. They no longer feel isolated as an elective teacher. They have someone that they can work with. So we have those that are a little bit more experienced in the course, working with those that are new to the course, and it's just really, it's just working wonders. You have different strengths with different teachers, so they're able to give each other ideas and bring different things to the table. And I think a lot of the scores that you're seeing here are going to continue to be as they are in that bold because of this collaboration and teachers working together. So our areas to work on, and I think these are 2 areas that from elementary school up are things that we want to focus on. Economics is something that is always, no problem, is always something that's a little difficult for students to understand. And so we are actually collaborating with the math department this year because it is a math-based subject, and sort of getting some ideas about how we can integrate the 2 subjects and help our students, not just in the economics course, but in all the subject areas. So US 1, US 2, world history, get some more economics and geography. Not just necessarily where, obviously we want students to know where different countries are. It's changing, maybe as we speak with all the world changes, but also to get students to understand the human side of geography, population dispersion, and things like that. So those are the 2 areas that we want to focus on as we go through for the next year. And then our goals for the coming year is focused on some of the things that I've already said. We're looking at increasing awareness of tolerance and acceptance. We're so proud that 2 of our students got upstander in the Oxford Dictionary, so that's, they initiated that, and now Starbucks has it on their cups, so that's great too. Continue with our historical thinking skills, because even that's not just a 1-year initiative, that's something we want to continue throughout, because those are so vital as we prepare students for the future and for college. And then working, of course, with other departments. And specifically this year, we're working with math in the business department, planning co-lessons together or collaborating, co-teaching in some cases. And then, of course, we're going to continue in our 2nd year now with the English department on research, and that's going to continue as we go forward as well. So with all of that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Comerford for World Languages.
Good evening. This year, or last year, 2016, we had, again, 250 students that were inducted into the different World Language Society Honor Societies. Really proud of that. It represents about 15% of the overall population. And that means that those students got A-level work, or produced A-level work over 6 to 7 or 8 semesters. So it is really quite an achievement. One young lady last year was able to do that in 2 world languages, and we acknowledged her success as well. We've also been working on, for the last 4 years, a digital portfolio system where we collect student work, we digitalize their work, and we use it to address our own progress within our classrooms and show our students. We give it back to them to show later generations what students from Watch on Hills really can produce, because what we don't like to do is to have them say, all right, well, AP says that students in Wisconsin perform at this level, but we're in New Jersey, we're in Watch on Hills, so we want to see what our students are capable of doing. So we've created that digital portfolio system. We're also working on including AP standards in everything that we do, and it's directed by ACTFL standards, which is the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. Well, we've done that now for 3 to 4 years. And of course, the last thing that probably is the newest thing for you, we're working on a dual enrollment course with Montclair State University in Italian, with the intent to get an Italian AP course up and running for next year. Here's our students' performance data. We're very, very pleased with these results. One thing that I'd like to highlight is that we do not have an AP Chinese program. We haven't had one since 2005, yet we do have students that take the Chinese AP exam, and we're hoping that this year we have quite a few students in AP, Chinese 4 that will be able to go to AP next year. So we're hoping to be able to offer AP Chinese for 17-18. Areas of improvement based on the AP report that we get back. We need to improve on presentational and interpersonal skills. If you take a look at that, what that means is our students should be able to do unpracticed, authentic exchanges with 2 or more people. That is difficult to do. You don't know what the topic is going to be. You don't know what they're going to be asking you. And that could be anything from an interview to walking into a hotel and getting settled into a place where you're going to have to give a conference, for example. And presentation is a little bit different. They do give you materials to look at. You have something to read, something to listen to, and there is a section of it that is planned. But yet it is still a very high level of linguistic ability. We also want to increase different opportunities for our students to work on referencing, making and formulating opinions, being able to express an opinion, and being able to relate someone else's opinion, as well as draw inferences on the material that they read and they listen to. And then finally, we want to be able to increase their interpretive capabilities through using those authentic print and textual work that we do. Whoa, clicker time. We are looking to our goals for next year, well, this year and then again into next year as well, align everything, both horizontally and vertically, to make sure that all of our levels understand what the one below and the one above them are doing, and then across all levels. So we have 5 different world language programs, each of them with 4 or 5 different levels, and we want to make sure that everybody is in tune with what is happening in all of the other languages as well. Identify different pathways for our students to follow. Perfect example would be the dual enrollment program in Montclair State University that we're hoping again will culminate in an AP program in Italian. And we're researching now how to implement new assessment strategies so that we can assess our progress that is outside that digital portfolio that I mentioned to you before. And now Mr. Dan Twizzle will be up talking about math and business.
Hello again. Our highlights for last year range quite a bit. The first couple are pointing out some of our math co-curricular activities. The first exam for the Math League test just happened today, and I got to tell you, it was amazing walking into room 105 and watching all the tables full in the cafeteria of students doing math. So let's hope they can keep that fervor going for the entire year, and we can keep the enrollment up for those exams. The Future Business Leaders of America went down to Atlantic City, and they competed there, and 3 teams moved on to the Nationals to be able to compete down in, I believe, Georgia. For Calculus AB, we now have 2 teachers teaching it. Our veteran has been opening up his classroom to let the new teacher audit, to learn a lot about the course and learn the nuances of what it is to teach AP. We did a full rewrite across the curriculum. Teachers got together and collaborated as to what all the courses should entail to better align what they hold and match them up to the other courses. We've had a heavy expanse of technological use. A few of our teachers are forefront users of the smartboard, and they've been using a lot of the interesting bells and whistles of the smartboard to enhance instruction in the classroom. We have some teachers even practicing learning how to program on the calculator to draw a little bit more power out of it. We've done a major redraft of the AP Computer Science curriculum. It's one of the things I'm most excited about. I have a lot of experience in the AP Computer Science program. Bless you. I'm teaching it this year, and as Ms. Favreau pointed out earlier, it's nice to be able to have other people in the discipline to be able to communicate with. In business, we've branched out with our electives to offer a greater range of tiers of the classes. We now have Accounting 2 as an H-level course, while still offering the same Accounting 2 in the past, but students spoke in volumes that they wanted the honors level. Enough students enrolled into the course to actually run it this year, but I believe only 2 students enrolled at the regular classic Accounting 2 level, so that course did not run. At the other end of the spectrum, we're also offering an Introduction to Accounting course. It's a lower threshold beginning class to give students exposure to the accounting world without the rigors of the more advanced courses. We've had some nice numbers, as mentioned earlier, the SAT and ACT scores. Our students continue to thrive in that environment. As the test changes, it's starting to look a lot closer to the materials they're preparing for the park. There's more open-ended style questions. As the content on the SAT changes, so does our curriculum, to be able to adapt to these new changes in the exam. And in fact, it ripples all the way up to AP Calculus, because that exam is now following some of those same open answer style formatting. So as we prepare our students for one, we're preparing them for them all. The changes to the AP courses are working out quite well. The calculus numbers are on the rise. Not only the average scores on the test continue to be very admirable, but the number of students taking the exams has also been rising. So much so that I'm new to the district. So when I was looking at these numbers and seeing the number of students that were taking the BC calculus, I did a double take because we had more students take the exam than were sitting in the class. But it's some of the students at the AB level opted to take the BC tests, so we actually had more students taking the exam than were sitting in the room. It's remarkable that our students have that opportunity and yet are scoring so well at the same time. The computer science numbers were a little bit low, and you're going to see on the next slide what we're doing this year to be able to accommodate that. Our statistics numbers are also quite good, while the number of students in that class is swelling. We're running 5 sections of AP statistics this year, which is fantastic. One of our areas of focus is going to be AP Computer Science. I'm throwing some of the numbers up on the board just so you get an idea about it. I've looked very closely at this data. I've been an AP reader. I've been an AP Computer Science teacher for about 10 years now. And looking at this data, we made a lot of revisions to the curriculum to try and enhance it. We added new labs, new activities, ways for students to really engage with the content, to better understand it, to address some of these shortcomings in the last test. Same time this summer, we spent a lot of time working on the consumer math curriculum. We're using it now as an avenue to help students prepare for the AccuPlacer test, thereby grant themselves graduation of high school. As was mentioned earlier, math is working with the business department. Our teachers have been really excited about being able to collaborate. Many of them were happy even just to be able to put some faces with names of people that they don't typically talk to. So our first meeting went very well, and they're starting to form groups. And in fact, I believe Thursday, they're already going to do one of their first co-teaching experiences. So it's going very well. The technological usage, as I mentioned, the smartboard and the calculator, the teachers have really embraced using technology in their classrooms. We've had math teachers actually use the Chrome carts to be able to get computers into the math classroom, and it's been some fantastic gains. We're also, in that same vein, looking for students to take more ownership and have them be more actively engaged in math instead of just being lectured to. And even this morning, I watched a classroom in a geometry class. The students were doing a Kahoot, an interactive quiz to be able to guide what they knew and what they did not know about the topic. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Gillespie.
So I just want to go through some of the highlights for 2015-16 for the science department. Like many of the other departments, science department does participate in many different leagues for all of our 3 subjects, chemistry, biology, and physics. And last year, we had statewide recognition in New Jersey Science Leagues for individual students in team competition, as well as in the Merck State Test. Last summer, the department did a huge rewrite of the entire curriculum, core curriculum science to the NGSS standards, the Next Generation Science Standards, which is an inquiry-based approach to learning science, which goes hand in hand with our vision in the district. We proposed and now are running a new astronomy course in school, and students are actually, I think, looking at the moon the last 2 days because it was a full moon, and they have moon logs and are looking outside every night. Our robotics team last year advanced to the St. Louis National Competition. They had to win a few regional rounds within New Jersey, and I think last year everyone heard of how well they did and went to St. Louis and had a very nice performance there also. We revised our recommendation process, looking at the student as a whole in terms of recommending them and giving guidance for students into different ability groupings and funneling them to places where they have interest and giving them better information. And with the rewrite of the core curriculum to the NGSS, there's been more of a consistency in the collaboration among the teachers. I really push that so that this work can be shared amongst the teachers and that every student is getting the same experience on the science side. Our performance data is highlighted in really 4 different areas of AP biology, chemistry, environmental science, and physics, which can be broken down to 2 different subsets, the electricity and magnetism test and mechanics. So AP biology, chemistry did very well last year, above 4s, above our district goal. Number of test takers was high also, and in fact in AP biology and chemistry, no students scored below the median in either multiple choice or the free response. Those 2 tests have been rewritten in the past 4 years, so it's different and more inquiry-based approach. AP Environmental Science we had 3 sections last year. 42 students took the test, again scored above 4. In our AP Physics, last year we had a new teacher in physics, and he did very well in the mechanics as well as the electricity and magnetism part with a 4.23 and a 3.64. I do want to point out we also had a new teacher in AP Chemistry last year. We had 2 teachers, one new to the subject, and performed very well there last year. So our areas of improvement, obviously we looked at our AP Physics C electricity and magnetism scores, and the first thing the teacher did to me was email me with a bunch of things this summer that he really wanted to do to improve upon that by looking at his AP score report that the teachers are allowed to see on the College Board website. I think mostly that it's the teacher getting used to the course and the high level of mathematics that's involved in the AP Physics C course, and electricity and magnetism, let's face it, is a very tough subject. So we're working on that. We're doing a lot of close reading of scientific articles. We are going to be collaborating with the English department this year and looking at scientific articles and trying to flesh out the most important parts of it, what the reader needs to get out of a scientific article. And the teachers are going to be learning a lot of close reading that way. We continue to expand our collaboration across other departments. We're actually also meeting with the arts and physical education folks next week, having a co-meeting to discuss lessons and lesson planning between there. And our STEAM initiative that's via the strategic plan, we're starting to think about ways to implement that. I think this is, there we go. Our department goals this year, we want to expand reading across the curriculum for both science and English language arts. As you may have heard, all 9th graders coming this year were required to read The Martian, which is a very popular science fiction movie last year, but also a very popular book. And we have used that book in many of our classes this year. We started off with the 9th graders. We continuously use that all along, but we also have plans to use it with chemistry and physics. We're going to use excerpts from the book because it has a lot of good science in it, but it also has a good human story, which is also important for our students to learn. And we're, again, developing co-taught classes with the Fine Arts and PE department with Mr. Bertelli. Again, we start next week with that in our department meeting. Next, I want to introduce Mr. Bertelli, who's our supervisor of arts, physical education, and health.
Good evening.
Some of the highlights for art over the past year, the art teachers spent some time refining and updating the curriculum to align them with the Understanding by Design. A number of band members were selected to the All-State Band, the All-State Orchestra, and the Band of America Honor Band, the America Honor Band as well. A number of choir students as well were selected to the All-State Mixed Chorus, the All-State Treble Chorus, and the All-Eastern Honor Choir. The teachers are highly engaged in encouraging the students to enter a variety of art competitions and art shows as well, and our students were recognized in in a number of these events: the Ducret Art School, the Fresh Perspectives and Morris Museum Show, which we ribboned with 2 students, the Hillsdale Cultural Arts Commission, and Fine Arts and Photography Show as well. A number of our students were also recognized a number of our students also attended the Teen Arts Festival. We took almost 150 students to the festival, and then at least 65 of them were asked to attend the State Teen Arts Festival at Ocean Community College as well, and they performed well and represented the school very nicely. Some of the arts area of focus, as Mr. DeLessio mentioned, we're getting together next week with the science department, and we're planning on working on some lessons where we're going to co-teach and co-plan some lessons. And the teachers are also working on concentrating the Spring Arts Festival to make it more of a celebration of all of the arts in our school. Instead of spending one day celebrating each, we're going to try to condense it a little bit to have it more of a festival of celebration of all of the arts in our district. Some of the highlights for PE and health education. We spent the summer, a couple days over the summer, redesigning the curriculum. We wrote 3 new activities: golf, archery, and the teachers just got trained in archery this last week in our PD day, and also competitive volleyball. We also took the activities and paired it together. For instance, basketball and volleyball. So in one marking period, the students take 5 weeks of one activity and then move to the next activity in the next 5 weeks. This offers the students a little bit more exposure to different activities and gets them involved in a lot of different things as well. We've also trained all of our staff members in Project Adventure and renovated the course outside the building as well. This year in physical education, we're focusing on piloting a new grading system where the students will be authentically assessed on their effort in PE and given a numerical grade versus a pass-fail grade. This is a pilot program, and we're working with the teachers so they can come up with a way to fairly assess our students. We've also upgraded the Option 2 program, which was formerly known as the Independent Study, which we're holding students more accountable by submitting a log and a journal on what they did outside of school to meet the core curricular standards for physical education. We moved freshman health from the last marking period to the first marking period. I believe this is going to help our students adjust well to their school environment. Coming into the school the first semester, they talk about many topics that will help them get adjusted and kind of adjust to the school environment. And as Mr. DeLessio mentioned, we're working with the science department co-curricularly. Some of our departmental goals to kind of go along with the strategic plan the teachers are working on. 3 different initiatives inside of our department. The Arts and PE department together are working on launching a peer-to-peer mentor program, and we'll be developing that on our upcoming meetings. The Arts department is working on clearing some roadblocks so all students have a clearer pathway to the AP programs at the top of on the top of the curriculum pyramid, so to speak. And the PE is working on implementing a Wellness Wednesday where every student will kind of get some exposure to what they can do to enhance their wellness and nutrition and be more active in their lives outside of high school as well. I'd like to now pass the clicker to Miss Mary Ann Sale.
Hello.
So special services, there's always exciting things happening in special services. We have a variety of programs that we offer students to meet all their unique learning needs. We have a learning language disabilities program, resource center program, and in-class support. We have a very large co-teaching in-class support program. The supervisors work very closely with the special education teachers and myself to develop good program for our students within the co-teaching program and the resource center program. This year, some of our highlights, in order to address the college and career readiness goals and skills that students need, we developed 2 courses. The careers course is designed to help students in the career readiness aspect, how to get a job, how to keep a job, the soft skills that you need when you go out to work. And the transitions class is really unique to us. It is a course, it's a college course that it's developed by the ARC, which is an adult services agency, and it's in collaboration with Valley Community College, and it's designed to help students who may not be ready to fully integrate into the college experience, to sort of transition slowly into what happens there, how to study, how to write papers, how to go to class, how to make friends when you're in this new environment. The ARC, 2 of our teachers and the child study team have gone out, spoken with the ARC, we've observed the program at RVCC, and we were very fortunate to bring the program here into Watchung Hills. So this is our college readiness piece that we provide to some of our students to help them get ready for what to expect when they get out into the college environment. So we're unique in the sense that we're the only public school in our larger larger community to provide it in-house. Some schools are sending their students to the community college. We're the only ones to have it here inside our building. So some of our highlights, last year we expanded our learning and language program. This program is functional life skills, activities of daily living, and we included an apartment. We took one of the classrooms and split it in half and built a little apartment. So we have a little living room, a little dining area, a little bedroom, and we practice those functional life skills. The kids have a meal planning and cooking piece where they go to the kitchen next door and they prepare meals, and then they come into the apartment and they have meals family style, so they get that experience of socializing over a meal. We sit in the living room and have conversations where everybody gets a turn to speak. So we're working on some of those skills with our kids to help them integrate better into the community. And the bedroom, they learn how to make the bed, wash the sheets, put the sheets back on. It's really very nice. Oh, and we also have a vocational component, so we developed that this year. We're starting it this year for our learning and language students, and next year for our resource center students, where we're teaching them some vocational skills that they can take out into the community and help them find gainful employment. We have expanded our structured learning experience, which is going out into the community to experience the world of work. Some of it is paid employment, some of it is volunteer employment. They go with job coaches. Our transition coordinator, Mr. Betty, goes into the community and finds experiences for them based on the students' interests. So we have students working in retail. We have students working at the Chelsea with some of the adults that live there. We have students that are interested in working with children. So the sending districts have opened up their elementary schools to us, and we have opportunities for our kids to work in the sending district elementary schools with children as well. And the learning language program is always growing, and we're quite popular among the tuition students. If schools come in and they take a look at our program, it's been in the making 15 years or so. It went from a one-room schoolhouse to a departmentalized program, and we have a lot to offer there. So a lot of districts will come in to take a look at what we're doing and see if we'll take their students as tuition students. Some of our department goals to address the strategic plan is to develop greater literacy among our students, and Mr. Accordi and I have been working closely together, looking at different platforms that we can do that to help our kids build their reading lexile levels, improve their reading comprehension, help close some of the gap that might exist. And we are also working on developing a program, hopefully next year or the year after, for some of our students that struggle with anxiety and school resistance or school avoidance, to bring it here in Watchung Hills so that students can attend school in their home district versus going to an out-of-district placement. And then finally, through our transitions and careers class, we are addressing the college and workplace readiness skills that we would like to have our students have to go out into the community. And I think I'm the closer, so that's there we are.
Indeed, you are the closer. Thank you very much. Excellent job. And first of all, I wanted to thank all of our department heads that are here that took the time to present. one of the things that we've been talking about as a board since we embarked on the whole strategic planning process is how do we operationalize it? How do we ensure that the document becomes living and meaningful within the institution itself? And through the planning process and the goal setting that you've done and that you've presented here today, it was certainly heartening to see how everything is tied back to the strategic plan. So I think you've done a great job with that. I'm sure my other board members appreciate the effort to tie everything together, because it is one of our board goals is to ensure the successful implementation and operationalizing of that plan. So thank you for doing that, but also thank you for creating such a very informative session for us this evening. And with that, I'll open it up to any board members that have any questions or comments. Yes, Mr. Fallon.
Yeah, I want to say that although the program was long, it was unique in my many years on the board to have at one time all of our supervisors and our principal come together. So I want to thank the superintendent and the principal and all the supervisors to give us in one evening such a broad overview of all aspects while still tying it together in themes of what we've accomplished, what we still need to do, and what our goals are, and relating it to the strategic plan. I think you're all to be complimented. As I say, it's unique. In my nearly 10 years at the board, I've never seen a more effective presentation, so thank you.
Mr. Collins.
I'll echo Peter's comments and only say I hope we continue it and build greater community participation to be able to see this. So, thank you.
Other comments? The one thing that I've got a couple of comments, but one of the things that we've talked about at the board is because there's so much rich information that was presented, that from time to time actually having a particular department come in so that we could go a little bit more deeply, into a particular content area and spend a little more than 3 minutes or 4 minutes on what you're doing.
You guys did pretty good with that.
You did great with that. You did great with that. We have so many interesting questions come up as a result of that, and I don't want to take the time necessarily to go into that. The one observation that I do have is across all the departments, we spent a good bit of time referencing the AP feedback and how the information that we've gotten from AP we're able to take from that and then inform instruction. I didn't hear really anything related or similarly to that from what we learned from Park, or if we learn anything from Park that we can apply. So I don't know, maybe our Park administrator, I don't know if you could comment on the data that we're getting back from Park, and are we able to actually use that in any way?
Well, we do get data back. Maybe some folks in the district may have gotten the student reports back, the student reports that we get each year that tell us how each one of the students did in each of the, say, clusters of a Park exam, and rate students whether they're attaining knowledge or basically almost like a grade level knowledge. So we do share that with teachers and share that amongst ourselves. In terms of all the data we get from Park and how we're doing in terms of other schools, that's a big black hole right now. We're not really sure. That's not a lot of data that's shared with us at the state level. When we get an average or a mean, what does that really indicate to us right now? We're not entirely sure. Is an 8-point difference statistically significant? We're not really getting that. I think multiple more years of data, maybe we'll get a little bit more. But I think the exposure to the Park has definitely helped our students in terms of the redesigned SAT as well as the ACT. Those are Park-like tests. So the more exposure we can give to our students with practice in Park and getting used to those types of questions, I think that's a better off. Tomorrow we have the PSAT, which is for our 10th and 11th graders, and those questions should not look different to them. They should have seen those types of questions before, evidence-based questions, words in context, having to figure out a math problem without reasoning, but use their curriculum skills that they've learned to do that. So I think that they're better off on those tests. It's a byproduct of the park.
But from the standpoint of the usability of the data coming back to inform our own instruction, is that useful?
Absolutely.
So you're getting usable data back from that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Fallon, you had a question?
No, I was just going to say that that's the part of the park that was sold to us, that this is really going to inform teaching better than all the other standardized tests and HESPA and everything that went before it. And so my impression until what you just said was that we're not there yet. And what I was going to ask is that next year as we look at this, have that be a focus of your report back to us, if you can, on whether we're making progress on having it actually inform our instruction.
Thank you. The other question that I had was related to the improvement on the history APs, and Ms. Jewett, maybe you can address this, or Mrs. Falvo. You talked about the restructuring of the history department, and that led to some of the improvements in those tests. Is that a result of the restructuring with MEH and the changing around of some of those, or is it something different?
A lot of it has to do with having new teachers, well, not brand new teachers, but teachers that hadn't taught the subject before. As I had said, we only had one teacher teaching a lot of these subjects, and also working within the department at meetings and stuff, collaborating with each other. So some of it is changing some of the teachers that are doing the subjects. Some of it is developing teams that seem to have worked better together, and using their strength to sort of enhance the type of rigor that we're giving to our students. I think a lot of it also is with the historical thinking skills that we've added, because we're focusing, and a lot of these AP tests, the social studies tests, the AP tests are all switching. The US test, the European history test, we don't have world history AP yet, but they've all moved from very content-based tests to more analysis, so there's always documents, even with the multiple choice tests. So our way of teaching has changed in relationship to the test. So I think that we're adjusting also to the new way. Now, not all the tests have developed that way yet. Government and politics, for example, is slated to change in 17-18. We'll see if that occurs or not, but that's the goal. Economics is still primarily a content-based test. But I think because of the pairings that we've developed and the different way we're teaching to the test, I think that's helped increase the scores. Everything is document-based now. And actually, the European and the US test have more rating components also. It used to be a document-based question, a free response question, and then the multiple choice. Now they have a document-based question, a long essay, a short answer section, and the free response. So we're adjusting to the new way, and I think that's helped because our instruction is based on the new testing. So
great, thank you very much. Any other questions?
Just one more thing
yes.
about that, and I think it's not just in history.
Could you,
for the last 3 years,
please?
We have really
spent a lot of time helping departments not see the sage on the stage. One person is in charge of AP. We've worked very hard and we've worked collaboratively on our strategic plan about the fact that we want the AP to be shared from the 9th grade student who walks in to the 12th grade student who walks out. So I think that's another point to Anita's overview, but that has happened in all of our departments. We really show our 9th grade teachers, look at how much growth we've seen in 3 years in 9th graders, and they are sharing the development. And so we're looking at the AP not as just that one teacher. And when I was here 10 years ago, those teachers were very isolated. And we really want to share, our students' performance. And I think that has made a big difference.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else? Any other board members? Excellent. Well, again, I want to commend everyone for a fantastic presentation, very informative, and we certainly look forward to opportunities to spend a little bit more time with you individually at some point in time in the future. We can move on to the next item on our agenda. Would be...
Maybe we should take it.
You know what?
Break while we wait for a quorum. Yeah, break.
Oh, yes, you're right. Actually, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So those of you that leave, we're waiting for our quorum to come back. And we're back. This is the first opportunity for public comment. The first public comment period will be limited to agenda items for this meeting only. The second public comment period will be open to any topic. All comments are limited to 5 minutes. So open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak?
About proposed...
Yes, anything, if it's an agenda item, if it's an item on the pink sheet, you're welcome to come up. Please state your name and the town you're affiliated with.
Yes, Robert Stanicki from Greenbrook.
Thank you.
And I'm here to talk about the fencing. I'm here to talk about the fencing program. And we have a number of parents here tonight from the fencing program. As you probably are aware, the fencing program has been one of the top athletic programs in our school. The team has been ranked in the top 2 or 3 spots 2 of the last 3 years for both teams. We probably have one of the biggest programs in New Jersey with 60 or 70 plus athletes. And it's not only just an athletic program, it's an academic program because our fencers are very accomplished students, and they've been able to get into schools that we're trying as a district to get into, like the Dukes of the world and the Hopkins of the world. So it's a very, very important program. Many of them have gone on to get scholarships. And the reason why we've had that success is because we had a coaching staff that was outstanding. Okay, any other school in the state of New Jersey would die for that coaching staff. Rich Brown was Coach of the Year for the Star-Ledger. Andre is probably the best strip coach in all of New Jersey for foil. Paul has trained hundreds of kids that have competed at a national level. So this is what we had. And their pay was below many of the other districts. But when your pay is low, at least you may be able to keep going, and they have, if you have the support of the athletic director. And it was not the case with this coaching staff. And as a result of that lack of support, the entire coaching staff is no longer with us. And I just want to give you just a couple of quick examples. One is, and the coaches took care of all purchasing, transportation, just so many issues. One issue was purchasing equipment, and the company they used is Absolute Fencing. Absolute Fencing is in Bridgewater. It's the #1 fencing company in probably the world, okay? They are a huge supporter of high school fencing. They give scholarships for college fencing. My daughter and others in high school were recognized for their academic achievements. So they have impeccable customer service. We've purchased before from Absolute. And if we needed to replace an item, you can go in there and take it off the shelf, and it wasn't a problem, okay? And the athletic director had no idea about anything about Absolute, what they do. Their equipment is, the top of the line. So there was a recommendation by coaches that are superior to go with one vendor. And instead of following that recommendation, we went to another vendor because we could save $4.64 or whatever it is for a blade. Not taking into consideration that blade could snap, and it's a liability issue. It's a liability issue for the people that are sitting next to the strip. I mean, it's a problem. You can have a mask that fails, So if a coach makes a recommendation to go to a certain vendor, we should follow that recommendation. A second example of the lack of support. Last year, we had fenced in a tournament. I think Brooke fenced 20 bouts. The team was exhausted. They were on fumes. They were in the gym for 12, 13 hours. And we had a meet like the next day or so. And the recommendation by the coaches were to cancel that meet. And the meet had nothing to do with counties or states. It was a sort of a non-issue. The parents felt the same way. Athletic director, nope, can't do it. We have to go to that meet. Third example, last year our team, the girls team, was in the Final Four. The boys team wanted to come up and support the girls team. It's like an hour and 15 minutes away. We went to the athletic director and said, can we have a bus? We'll even pay for part of the bus through our booster club. Answer, no. No support. So when I learned, and this has been going on for quite some time, but when it got to a critical stage, I got involved in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I spoke to the AD, and I spoke to the coaches, and I suggested that we try to pool the money. So we have $13,000 of salary for the coaching staff, and perhaps we can allocate that $13,000. So there's not one extra dollar spent on the fencing coaching budget. And we allocate those monies between the coaches in some way, maybe going from 3 to 2, maybe picking up a per diem, but it would address the salary discrepancy, and that request was denied. I discussed ordering with AD, and again, from Absolute, and again, the athletic director really had no knowledge of that. So in the end, and this has been going on for quite some time, on every issue that the coaches had, there was no concessions whatsoever to try to figure out a solution to bring back what is the best coaching staff in all of New Jersey. Now we have, I see, 3 proposed coaches, one of which is going to be a detention monitor, an assistant karate coach, and now a assistant fencing coach. I'm sure they're all great men, so please, they shouldn't take this personally. They're just not fencing coaches, okay? It's a highly skilled sport. You have to know and have experience in coaching. And to my knowledge, none of the coaches that have been proposed have that experience. So I asked, and the parents that are here have sent out feelers. We've been going nuts, all of us, trying to come up with some additional candidates. And in the last couple of days, a couple have popped up. And instead of maybe waiting on that to see if we could fill the spots with more, qualified applicants, we're proposing that we fill these 3 spots. And incredibly, we're going to fill the spots with 3 people at the salary that coaches that have been here for 12 years and have coached nationally ranked fencers were being paid. It's totally unacceptable. And I ask that you don't move on those C22, C23, and C24 until potentially the next meeting to see if we can flush out any additional candidates that will have a little bit more of a background in fencing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other members of the public that would like to speak, please approach the podium. Give us your name and your town.
My name is Leslie DeGeorge. I'm from Millington. I have been an advocate for fencing for the past 10 years. Some members on this board know me as the fencing lady from Long Hill. I started a middle school fencing team at Central Middle School in Sterling, and we are a big sending district that feeds this fencing team. And I have to really say that we helped propel this school to win their district champions. The boys won the Sabre Squad, Citrullo, a very prestigious tournament. And as a result of all my advocating for fencing over the years and starting the Booster Club here, I also started a fencing school that I have. And it wasn't because I wanted to start a fencing school, it was because my son, Chris's son, and a lot of these boys wanted to fence all year round. So this little business grew. And as a result of this business, I have hired many fencing coaches. I wish I could supply my fencing coach to the school. I can't. He coaches 2 middle school teams for Central Middle School and Basking Ridge, so he's completely booked. It's very hard to find fencing coaches. When my son started this program in 9th grade, I believe there was like 135 high schools that had varsity teams. Now I believe there's over 150 high schools in New Jersey that have varsity teams. As a result, they had to add a whole new district. So it's a lot of competition for new coaches. And it's scary to get new coaches because, as Rob said, we have these wonderful coaches. And sometimes when things are new and we have these changes, it could be good scary. But the 3 candidates that the athletic office has proposed, it's a very bad scary. As a matter of fact, Douglas Clark was scouted by one of our parents.
I just would like to mention, just to give you a warning, that you are speaking publicly about personnel issues, and so you're at liberty to say whatever it is you please, but just be aware that these folks, this is recorded, and they will, they can always take action in the future. So I just want to put that out there. You're welcome to say whatever you would like. But
I want to say the AD's office has been working very hard in trying to find candidates. And Mr. Clark, who came forward, these all might be lovely people. However, he really doesn't know a lot about fencing, and he was willing to come here as an assistant coach and to learn from Andre Zamblini, who resigned, who was one of our head coaches. Another coach, I don't even know who Mr. Hardy is. Maybe he's a qualified fencer. And Ms. Rocco Iacavone, as I pronounced that correctly, I understand it was very nice. He decided that he was going to come out of retirement, and we're very appreciative that he was going to come and help the team. And I understood he was going to come as an assistant. So what I'm just trying to say is some people came forward out of the woodwork today. There's a very qualified fencer who came out of Medeo. He's a foil coach. And we just would like the board to just reconsider some new names that have recently surfaced to fill some of these vacancies.
Great, thank you. Any other member of the public? Please come up.
Hi, I'm Lisa Fenton from Greenbrook. My daughter is a sophomore. And last year, she's an athlete, and last year she didn't have a sport because she's only 5'2", and she'd been playing basketball for this whole time, so she wasn't going to go on the basketball team. So she and her girlfriend decided they never tried fencing. Nobody talks about fencing. So what did they do? They went to the meeting and they started to fence. They love it. They went to Medeo. It's not just a sport, it's not just a discipline, a physical discipline, it's a mental discipline. It's like chess on a strip. These kids are really bright. These are real thinkers that are taking the sport. And from someone, a layman like myself, to stand here, all these guys have their kids that have been in this program. They're juniors and seniors. My daughter is a sophomore, and my heart hurts because there's nobody professional, no professionals in this heist that are even being considered to run this program. I mean, if you have these 3 people, which is wonderful, I mean, we can perpetuate this program so long with people that don't know how to fence. You know, it's like my daughter's going to end up trying to teach a freshman how to fence because these guys don't know how to fence. The seniors, fencers, are going to end up teaching the freshmen and the sophomores how to fence. Is that their job? No, their job is to fence. That's what they're here for. They're not here to teach other people how to fence. Last year, I saw Ally speak with a lot of the fencers. They were all very competitive and they were all very willing to teach my daughter, but this is going to be a requirement with 3 coaches that don't know how to fence on that coaching staff. Personally, I didn't expect to come up here, so I didn't really write anything down, but I kind of feel as though we're putting a Band-Aid on something and it's not going to fix anything going forward, even if it gets the seniors through this year, which I know we've got amazing fencers. I sat in those tournaments. People, if you've ever gone to a wrestling, like a national wrestling tournament, I mean, wrestling is the closest thing that's more popular. So if you've ever gone, you know that it's a very individual sport, but it's a real team sport. So everybody rallies behind the people playing. If they win, everybody's happy, but collectively, and it's a personal win for these kids. It's a different kind of a sport. It's you really have to go to one of these matches to really appreciate it, because that's what hooked me. To see all these kids really wanting to do this because they're sitting around and they're waiting for their minute to pull that thing out of there, you know, to pick that thing up and just start fencing. It's just, you know, to just put a Band-Aid on it when we have opportunities to bring people in who can really coach our kids. These are our resources of the future. And the whole thing about the scholarships, I don't know that it's going to apply to my 10th grade daughter who just started fencing. I can't imagine that she's going to get to the point that she's going to get a scholarship here. But I can tell you that for her, she's very proud to say that she is a fencer now, and she is, you know, and she's all in. So that's it. I don't feel as though this is a resolved situation, and I don't think that collectively, all of you sitting here who have children who have been involved in a sport, there's politics involved in every single sport. But where fencing is involved, it is not baseball. It is a very, very small-knit community, and there are not a lot of professional people that have the time to sit at 2:30 in the afternoon with these kids and and teach them how to fence, nor the patients for that matter. So I just ask that you open it up again and you allow those that know how to, that have been working with this program for 4 years or 3.5 years, that maybe we can find a resolution within ourselves, and we can help fix this, and we can maybe get the cooperation of all the people in the school to make this program what it should be, what it has been, and what it can be. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Yeah, please come up.
Hi, I'm Alana Marjolies. I'm from Watchung. I'm also a junior, and this will be my 3rd year involved in the fencing program at our school. And I just want to start by saying that fencing is one of my favorite aspects of school at Watchung Hills. I'm involved in other things, but the sense of community and purpose that this team has provided me, and also the other members of the team, as well as the parents involved, is really unprecedented. Another thing, but on top of that, as a team, we've been able to find a ton of success over the past few years. Last year, the girls placed 4th in the state, and over the past few years, all 3 weapons have won district and state championships. Part of this success has been based in the fact that we have experienced coaches that know how to, first of all, teach our team how to train and prepare with the very specific skills necessary to fence, and also creating a sense of community within our fencing team that is continuous throughout the state because of the close-knit community that fencing provides. But I just want to talk about one of the most important reasons why a coach must be experienced in fencing in order to create a successful program, and that's the relationship each coach creates with each fencer as a fencer. Because fencing is an individual sport, it's not only is very physically taxing on each fencer, but it's also an emotional process, and it requires someone who understands the sport fully to guide each fencer and coach them not only through each meet, but each season and as they progress. So just as you consider this list of coaches, I think that we have, in the past few days, had some candidates that really have this experience necessary to make our team as great as it can be and as great as it has been. And I just ask you to consider that as you vote on this, and therefore hopefully we can continue the great community that fencing has provided students like myself, and the success that it has brought the school and the accolades that it has brought our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. I think most of you know who I am. For those who don't, I am Danielle Heiss, the PTO president for the high school. This is my third year as PTO president. I'm also a fencing parent. I'm on the Booster Club. I've been part of the Health and Wellness Strategic Committee with Beth. I do a lot of things around here, and I'm not shy. And I have to tell you that I am completely distraught and emotional over this whole thing. Whether you're a teammate that we took pictures of, that we want to make sure that you're having a great experience, to being part of this whole amazing team that we've built. My son's a senior this year. This is supposed to be like the best year. We all talk about our senior year, right? You remember it. Everything that goes along with it. Project graduation, right? We plan that all year long. And this is not fun. It's really unfortunate that we lost all three coaches. I get it. Sometimes personalities don't mesh. Sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes people just had enough. There's only so much you can do. In this case, I don't think that the answer is the three names on that paper at all. I know as a parent, my son started fencing here as a freshman because we had a team. Because he didn't like other sports. We tried everything. He liked this sport. It was the one sport besides, chess, which isn't really a sport, that he liked. And guess what? I've spent a lot of money. And right now, because he fenced here as a freshman, because the program was open and we had good people, and Rich Brown and Andre would literally say to me, if he likes it, you should probably get him some lessons. So I said, okay, that sounds like a great idea. How much are they? A lot. They're a lot of money. So I went to Leslie, because her school is affordable, and she's got a great coach, and we did that for a while. I spent a lot of money. And then I moved up in the world, and we moved into Medeo, which everyone talks about, because they say lessons. Get your lessons, learn your thing, right? We did that. Well, guess what? My son wants to fence in the Olympics now. And I think the fact that we talk about being all in. We're a school that's all in. We're Watchung Hills. We want to be all in. We want to be proud. We want to show statistics about how great we're doing with classes and programs, all these things that we offer. The fencing team is that. It's something that's so unique and so special that we need the type of coaches that are going to coach kids like my son, so that when he's in the Olympics and he comes back and says, hey, I was an alumni of Watchung Hills, and you can come and shake my hand, and I can be proud to be here in these walls. I don't want him to say that my senior year sucked because I had to carry the team, because I don't have a coach that can actually teach me something. I have a babysitter. I just have someone to sit here and watch me, so that me and my co-captain could just tell everybody else what to do. And I don't think it's fair with the course load that they are given, that they have to be told that. And that's what they've been told. They've been told, you'll be okay, you know what to do. You're not really gonna need someone to, but you know what? Where are all the other freshmen coming in? I want other kids to be like him, that bite into this, that are like, Alana, they're like Lisa's child. They come in here and they love it because they have good instruction. I want the spirit to stay alive. I don't want people to feel like we didn't support them and we didn't give them what they needed because this team could die. And that is not what I want to see happen in this school whatsoever. So I hope that if this is not possible to not pass, if there's a way that there are other coaches, if they come in and they're better, these coaches can step down. I'm unfamiliar with the process, but I hope that that's an option, that people who are not qualified will allow people who are qualified to step up. And even if it's not all three, at least let one in, so the other two can support that person that does know what they're talking about. Because in these competitions, calls are everything. And I would hate for us to be in the top 5 or the top 3, and all of a sudden we're at 44th place because somebody didn't realize that director made a bad call and they just stood there like this because they don't know anything about fencing. So I just beg you, I really beg you to open your hearts and your minds and to potentially consider other candidates for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Scott Rakosny. My son's a junior fencer. I hate to follow that act, but I just want to say, I just want to know what the process is. We want some experience. You guys know that. You made a resolution tonight. Is it still open? I think we'd like to partially be involved. We're not experts here, but we may know people and just know where you're heading with this thing instead of just coming here one night and finding that the video coordinator, nothing against him, we appreciate him stepping up, is going to be coaching our kids. So I'm not really sure what the process is. Maybe you can explain that to us. And if it's still open, which we sure hope it is, maybe we can be a part of that dialogue. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Mike Bala from Watchung. Really imploring the board to reopen the 3 resolutions, C22, 23, and 24. Please do not disrespect the children. All right? They're putting their all into this. They're gaining a lot out of it. They deserve coaches that have experience that can actually coach them. We saw tonight on the academic presentation, first year teaching a subject has an impact on scores. What do you think is going to be the impact on freshman, sophomore students if they have coaches that don't have any experience? They don't know what the 3 weapons are. They don't know what the targets are. They don't know what the parries are. You know, it's not just something anybody can walk into. How many people on the board have been to a fencing match? 1, 2.
I have, well, been
3.
to many.
Okay. Do you feel qualified to coach fencing? You need qualified instructors. We're working on trying to identify them. We realize it's difficult, and really, you need to reopen this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this or any other topic? Okay, that closes our first opportunity for public comments.
So I appreciate you all coming out. Alana and Dominic, thank you for coming and sharing your experience and thoughts as well. It does give me an opportunity, while I cannot speak specifically to personnel matters, so there is some misinformation that I cannot clarify because I'm not at liberty to speak about personnel issues. There is a lot of misinformation that you are giving me the opportunity to clarify that seems to be out there. I do agree it's a very important program, and I do agree, one of you had mentioned that there are not a lot of professional people out there that have the time to coach high school fencing. So you may not be aware that we have been actively looking since the spring. We have had it posted. We have reached out to 7 fencing schools. We have posted it in the Star Ledger, so we have not taken this lightly. The previous coaches, it was their decision to not come back. We can't coerce anyone to coach at the school. And it seems that some of the things that you think are at the discretion of our athletic director are absolutely not at the discretion of our athletic director, and our staff is aware of that. Our athletic director is not at liberty to choose a vendor. We are governed by public bid laws, so we are not able to pick a vendor just because that is the preference of the coach. Our business administrator will attest to that. We cannot just cancel meets. We are governed by the NJSIAA, and there are penalties for when you cancel things. So that is not something that we are just at liberty to do either. We also do have a booster club policy that governs spending by the booster club. So again, something else that the athletic director does not necessarily have discretion over. And the salaries of the coaches. We have a collective bargaining agreement that governs, it has what's called Schedule D in it, and that determines our coaching stipends. So we are not at liberty to adjust those. Those are based on what is outlined in the contract. And there are ranges, and the previous coaches were at the top of those ranges. So there's nothing else that the athletic director or any of us are able to do, because that is part of the collective bargaining agreement. So just to clarify some of that information. Your knowledge of the coaches that are being proposed, again, while I'm not going to speak specifically to them, I'm assuming you're being hyperbolic when you're saying they don't have any experience and don't know a foil, from the other equipment, because they do have experience. The two head coaches do have fencing coaching experience. That I'm not sure why that misinformation is out there, and I do think it's unfortunate that rather than giving them an opportunity and giving them the chance to grow and help the students grow, that these are the assumptions that everyone's making. We have a philosophy in this district of wanting to help our students grow and develop as our staff members. We would never hire a teacher right out of college if we were determined that everyone had to know everything they needed to know about what they were going to do the minute they stepped in here. We are a high school, so we obviously do not have coaches for every single sport that have professional coaching experience. Many of our sports, the head coaches have direct experience in that sport, and the assistant coaches did not. They may have had other coaching experience, but we hired them for that sport without specific content knowledge of that sport, and they learned under the tutelage of the head coaches. So please be assured, that if we are recommending candidates to be hired, that if they don't already know everything they need to know for the position, we believe that they have the capacity to grow. And that's our role as leaders in the district and as the Board of Education and as the athletic director to make sure that we help them along their path for that growth. But I do want to assure you that they do have experience. The two head coaches do have experience, so I'm not sure why that misinformation is being passed around. I do believe that is all of the notes that I had. I don't know if anyone else, had anything else they wanted to add. Oh, in terms of other candidates being brought forward, number one, obviously, we've been looking for a number of months, but again, things that I'm not going to discuss publicly with regard to candidates, but you may not be aware that the candidates you are bringing forward, their hours are not conducive to actually coaching a high school team. So, when we may have inquired as to their availability, they're not available during the time they would need to be available for high school meets and practices. So there are a lot of different factors that come into play. Besides the fact that there is a whole application process, they do need to have a sub-certificate and go through a criminal background check to coach. So if somebody were to come to us today, they probably wouldn't even be able to start at the beginning of the season. So there are a lot of different factors, and I know that's not your role, so I don't expect you to be aware of all of that. But a member of the audience did ask for the process, so we do go through a very extensive process, and it's also always beneficial to the students when we have in-house candidates that are coaching the sports because they are here for the students. We do have some sports where we can't find in-house qualified candidates and have to go outside. But we do always prefer when they're actually a teacher in the district because it allows for easier communication with the students. So I certainly understand and hear all of your concerns, and I hope you know that our number one priority is to help the development of our staff so that they can assist in the development of our students, and that is not being lost. And I think our fencing program is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal opportunity for our students. We try to provide as many opportunities as possible for our students so that there's something for everyone. And Alana, you mentioned how really fencing was kind of what called to you, and we plan on it being there for many students for years to come. And, hopefully we can grow the program and grow the number of coaches, because the number of students in the program has grown. And the board actually did add an assistant coach, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. We only had the 2 head coaches, and we added the assistant coach. So, we are certainly looking to continue to grow the program. We hear all of your concerns. I will make sure that I communicate those with Mr. Van Vliet so that we can keep moving forward.
Great, thank you. Moving on, the next is discussion of addendum items. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding any of the addendum items for the agenda this evening?
Can we just separate those out and vote on those?
When we get to that section, we can pull those just as we can pull anything else. Anything else on any addendum items?
Mr. Vice President, I would now like to move resolutions A1 through A14.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, Mr. Size.
Mr. Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Demizia?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mrs. Fackner?
Yes.
Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Okay, motion's carried.
Mr. Vice President, I'd now like to move resolution A15.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Demizia?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mrs. Fackner?
Yes.
And Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries.
Mr. Vice President, I would now like to move resolutions C1 through C24.
Second.
Hang on a second. We have a B1.
Yeah, we have a B.
I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Fallon.
Instead, I will move resolution B1.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Demizia?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mrs. Fackner?
Yes.
Mr. Martins?
Yes.
And Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
I will try again, Mr. Vice President, and I will now move resolutions C1 through C24.
Second.
Is there anyone that wants to have any of these items pulled separately?
Can we pull items C22 through C24 for a separate vote?
Sure. Any other item that anyone wants to have pulled separately for discussion and vote? So then the motion would be for approval of C1 through C21, is that correct?
The vote, yes.
Okay. Mr. Size, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Demizia?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mrs. Fackner?
Yes.
Mr. Martins?
Yes.
And Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we still have, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, discussion on C22 through C24?
Yes, please.
Okay. I just want to say that my vote on this motion doesn't reflect any disrespect of anyone on the fencing community at Watchung Hills. The district has tried for a number of months to find fencing coaches and has been somewhat responsive to even late suggestions of people who might be considered. These, at this point, I think are the best available coaches to us. We need to get the appointments done in order to be able to start the winter season. But I just wanted to make clear my vote is not intended as disrespectful to either the students, the parents, or anyone else in our fencing community.
Mr. Collins.
I'll echo what Peter said and add that, as a parent of a former fencer at Watchung Hills and a fencer, and he's still fencing in college, love the program here, but unfortunately and fortunately, we need to work within the confines of the system that we have available to us. Certainly many of the fencing family members here, we were involved years ago in creating a booster club and getting that off the ground, but we still have to work within the confines of a policy within Watchung Hills So my vote will be going forward.
Mr. Martins?
If I could ask, Beth, how many candidates applied for the position?
3.
And those 3 are the ones that we see here?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Fechner?
I'm sure we have all heard your plea, and we unfortunately are in a position of knowing that there are problems that just have not been able to be resolved in the time frame we have. And it's really with sadness, I think, that all of us are making this move. Probably, I can't speak for others, but nobody likes to harm any program that we have for our students. Sometimes we get just boxed in. It sounds like this is one of those sad cases. I'm certainly not happy with the vote that I'm feeling I have to make, because I don't think we have a choice here.
Any other questions or comments? The question I have is the comment came up that there's not enough time if it's not approved this evening in order to allow for the proper application process and vetting that needs to go on before the beginning of the season. So if we were to table something until the next meeting and approve something at the next meeting, there wouldn't be enough time between the November meeting and the beginning of the season to have somebody reviewed and certified?
I'm not sure what the difference would be from now till the next meeting. As we've obviously reviewed all the candidates we've had. We've reviewed additional candidates, an additional candidate that was brought forward. And if we receive any candidates that are not employees of the school, then there's at least a month or so lag time with them getting fingerprinted, and if they don't have a substitute certificate, that takes time as well. So there's a process to that.
Well, but that's lag time if they haven't been approved at some other school and have a substitute.
Even if they are, they still have to go through the process here and in this county with the sub-cert and fingerprinting.
Thank you.
And so with the next board meeting being on November 1st and the season starts?
Mid-November.
So 3 weeks after that. So we...
Yeah, and it's only trials. Our first meeting is until December 20th.
Yeah, the calendar certainly doesn't appear to be working in our favor on this, unfortunately. Are there any other comments? Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Stiles on C22 through C24.
Mr. Collins? Yes. Ms. DeMuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mrs. Fechner?
Yes.
Mr. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Okay, motion's carried.
Mr. Vice President, I would now like to move resolutions D1 through D17.
Second.
I'd like to pull all of those that have donations. Maybe I can do it as a class, because it
You can
seems
make
to
a
be...
comment.
You can make a comment on all those if you would like.
I always like them to be separate in the minutes, and that's my concern.
Gotcha.
So that we have...
Anything with a donation, I will pull and put separately for you. Okay.
It goes from 9 to 16.
Yeah, D9 through D16.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please, Mr. Stiles.
Okay, Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. DeMuzio?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mrs. Fechner?
Yes.
Mr. Martins?
Yes.
And Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Okay, motion's carried.
This is the second opportunity for public comment for anything that's on the agenda or anything that anyone else would like to discuss. Please come forward to the microphone and state your name and community. Seeing none, I'll move to other business. Is there any board member that has any other business that they need to bring up at this time? Seeing none, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There we go. Thank you.